Hey everybody, today I'm talking about gardening mistakes. So the other week I came across this book. This is 500 Common Gardening Mistakes Corrected. And it got me thinking about mistakes in the garden and really what even is a mistake in the garden. Have I made mistakes in the garden? And the more I thought about it, the more I thought that no, I haven't made mistakes. Sure, there have been things that didn't come out maybe how I expected them, but I wouldn't call them mistakes. What I did was I went through this book real quick. I mean, there's 500 in here, but I pulled out three topics, three mistakes, and I wanted to talk to you about them, but also I wanted to talk about what I have learned by gardening and how that actually has kind of changed the way I look at what you might traditionally call a mistake. And because, of course, you can read and watch as many videos as you want, but it's when you're out in the garden that you are learning. It's really easy to kind of head down the path of feeling like everything in the garden is a item to check off the list, that things have to be done a certain way, that my garden needs to look a certain way. And when that happens, I think we start to kind of forget what gardening can be and what gardening can do for us. I'll look outside and instead of really seeing the garden, I sometimes get caught up and I only see the things that maybe I haven't done yet, the things that are still projects that are unfinished. And sometimes I'll go outside with the intent of, all right, now I'm going to check some things off the list. I've got time. Boom, I can start working through these things, all the things that I'm supposed to do because, it's this time of year or whatever. And I'll go outside and I'll see a daffodil blooming that I didn't see the day before, or I'll notice the butterflies are starting to show up, or I'm seeing the peas have sprouted where they were still below the soil the last time I looked at them. And the next thing I know, I'm just there in the garden, and the garden has kind of pulled me in. And maybe I'm not doing all the things on my quote unquote checklist, but I'm actually being present and being there in the garden. A garden isn't a project to be finished, it's a place to just be. I think for me, the garden is the place where I can give myself permission to slow down, to relax, to stop and enjoy just being outside and getting that connection with nature, with the plants, the birds, the bees that are buzzing around, the fruit or the vegetables that are coming ripe, the flowers that are blooming, and just kind of being present in all of that. I love when the garden encourages me to stop and take a breath and notice what is beautiful right now. And wherever the garden is at, that's enough. Right now, this is what it's supposed to be. We can take a cue from the plants that we're growing. Gardening isn't a starting point and an ending point. It's a cycle. And there's always something happening, something to make us stop and give us pause and hold our attention and be able to put away some of the other things, the 9 to 5 job, the other chores that I have, all that other stuff that goes around in life. The garden can be that place where it's just okay to be. Before I jump into those three quote unquote mistakes, I want to talk a little bit about this book. So I saw this book and as soon as I saw it, I had to have it, even just based on the title. And so this book is from 1945, so it's 80 years old. As I was flipping through, I like this book. I like the way it's organized. It's broken up into sections, and within each one, there's kind of like a headline that grabs your attention, and then an explanation about how you would correct that mistake. It's basically like the 1945 version of our social media posting. And I was curious when I first picked this up if the information in here, is it still going to be relevant? Are these still the things we're thinking about? Has our understanding of the environment or gardening changed over the decades? And does this kind of reference even hold up today? And the short answer, I think, is yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in here, a lot of good pieces of information, or maybe explanations as to why I might be seeing something in the garden. Okay, so the first mistake, it comes from the perennial section, and it's about dahlias. And if you've seen some of my previous videos, you know how much I love dahlias. The caution here is about dividing dahlias without taking into account the bud that is formed that's close to where the previous growth was from last year. And yeah, I guess I'm guilty of planting out, or trying to plant out, experimenting, planting out a dahlia tuber that maybe just falls off of the main the main clump that I have. And I'm sorry, I have a wonderful cat and he's distracting me. And so, I mean, yes, I've had tubers fall off the main clump of the dahlias, and I'll just plunk that into the ground and see what happens. It's fine. It's okay to experiment. It never really works. There is a bud that is formed on the tuber close to where, on the end that's close to where the growth had come from the previous year, and you do need that, and the book actually recommends trying to get some of that growth from the previous year, that centerpiece of the dahlia plant, if you are going to try to divide them. And I mean, that's a good bit of advice. I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, well, I've made a mistake. If you know kind of about dahlias or any plant you're dividing, as long as you learn about how that plant likes to be divided, then you're going to be set up for whatever plant you're tackling. I actually don't really divide my dahlias. I just tend to I just tend to try to plant them out and grow those clumps. But maybe I will start to divide dahlias a little more often. We'll see. Now that I've got some more space and I've got some more room, some more flower beds for the dahlias, I can start to do that. But importantly, if I don't want to divide them, I don't have to. I don't have to worry about it. It's nothing. There's no rules here about I have to have a certain number of plants, a certain number of dahlias in a certain way. I just find the ones that I like and just try to enjoy growing them. So mistake number 2 is something that we probably have all done at one time or another, and that is not thinning out seedlings early enough. And yeah, sure, I've definitely done this. I've let seedlings go too long without thinning them out. And, you know, sometimes life gets in the way and I don't get around to it when I mean to. Of course, the reasoning and why this is called a mistake is that, if you don't pot on or thin out the seedlings or don't pot them on, that you're not going to get the strongest ones to then be able to put out into the garden. I'll start potting on seedlings, but I don't like leaving the other ones behind. It's like, well, these have all sprouted. I don't want to just throw them away. And so what I usually do is I'll still keep those going. Just in case some of the ones that I have potted on that I want to put out in the garden don't survive for whatever reason, that I still have some backups. With those extra plants, I might continue to pot them on. And then I like to actually take them and put them in other parts of the garden as like sacrificial plants. This works really well for, say, like tomatoes or something like that. I'll put extra tomatoes out in another part of the garden to hopefully attract the pests to that plant. And once the pests are there, then given enough time, the predators of those pests will show up and start taking care of that for me. And hopefully I can reduce the concentration or the chances that the pests are going to get to the plants that are in my vegetable garden that I'm really trying to grow on. But even if you're not going to do that, if you've got extra seedlings, if you have like a community garden plant swap, or you can share them with friends and loved ones and your neighbors, and just give out the extra seedlings that you have. So I think there's some options there, and you can have fun and share gardening with the community around you. So the third mistake that I want to talk about is not staking plants early enough to give them support. And again, the theory behind this, the idea behind this is certainly sound, that you want to give support to the plants that need it before they need it. But again, if you don't, it's okay. I have found that some plants certainly do want to be staked, and the peonies or dahlias, and there are plants that want to grow up like a trellis kind of structure, and it's good to put those in when you have the chance to do that. I find that, say the peonies, for example, especially the really blousy kind of flowers of the peonies, they really do want to fall over, especially if they get wet. They get really heavy. And I actually kind of prefer the peonies that are the single flower, the more open ones. I like the way they look, the bees can get to them, and they aren't as heavy. They aren't as prone to kind of tipping over as the larger ones. But if you like the larger flowers, absolutely go for it. I've also had plenty of times when dahlias or other plants have kind of started to flop over, and when I see something that looks like it needs some support, then I'll dash outside and put a cane in the ground and some string around it and keep it supported. I've used a lot of different things for supports kind of over the years, and for me, bamboo canes seem to work the best because I can, just put out one or two canes to then be able to hold something up when it needs it, or make a teepee or a trellis structure for peas or something else to climb up and over. And it's just really easy to then put them away for the winter and bring them back out each year. They last a really long time. So things are going to happen. You do what you can and when you can. I think gardening, especially these days, can really easily start to feel overwhelming. That the garden has to look a certain way all the time, that there's a list of things that I have to do and another list of things that I can't do or shouldn't do. I have to do things by a certain time and in a certain way, and if I don't, then I failed or it's not good enough. And the reality is, the garden is going to tell us what it needs. The garden's going to show me, it's going to teach me about how to garden, about how to enjoy the space that I've created for these plants, for these vegetables. And try not to worry about following all the rules, doing things in a certain way. I learn by being out there, regardless of what the books all say or the videos all say. Yeah, some things are not going to turn out the way that maybe I thought they would, but I'm also going to learn from that. So 500 garden mistakes, or do these 3 things right now, plant these 5 things today. All of those kinds of things can really easily make gardening feel overwhelming, and it makes me, sometimes I have felt like I've gotten behind and I'm never going to catch up, and the garden's never going to be good. It's never going to be the perfection that it's supposed to be, that it has to be. But instead of thinking about it in those terms, just thinking about the garden from the perspective of it's growing, it's evolving. I'm going to be out there and I'm going to be learning about it every moment I'm there. Every moment I'm in the garden and being grounded and present in that space and at that time. And that's really what I want from gardening. I think it's important to give yourself permission to slow down, give yourself permission to evolve and grow with your garden. That where it's at is okay. Where it's at right now is enough. And that is beautiful and wonderful and exactly what it should be. So a book like this and other references like that are good, they're fun. There's definitely little bits of information in here, things that are gonna maybe give me ideas for what I want to put in the garden or how I might want to go about something. But it's not a rule book that I'm gonna follow so strictly that it's gonna take the joy away from gardening. It's good to know things, it's good to learn things, to be able to maybe look up something to understand why something is happening, why something is growing the way it's growing or not growing, and to learn from that and to move on and to work with the garden and to enjoy the garden for exactly what it is. Thank you very, very much for watching. Happy gardening, and I will see you in the next one.